Plaintiff Stephen Hastings and his grandmother Margaret say Stephen's been friends with the defendant for 4 years. And when he first met him, he was getting into trouble for stealing from stores and missing curfew. Stephen claims one night while he was sleeping over at the defendant's home, the defendant stole his car and wrecked it. So he's suing for the value of a new car. Defendants Gerald Luster and his son Robert say when Robert first came to live with Gerald at the age of 15, he was wild. So Gerald has been raising him with tough love. Robert admits that he wrecked Stephen's car, but both he and Gerald feel the plaintiffs are suing them for more than the vehicle is worth.
Start with you.
Your Honor, Robert and I had been friends for about 4 years. And when I very first met him, he was kind of troubled. But
how so?
He occasionally, he'd act out and disobey his father. He'd come home late after curfew. His dad would tell him be home at a certain time.
Like what? Give me an example.
There was several times where his father would tell him, be home no later than 9 o'clock. And here it is,
9:15,
10, 11 o'clock at night.
All right.
And he's, still out.
What else?
He'd occasionally steal from Walmart.
Right. Now you're talking.
Packages of gum or
he stole chewing gum from Walmart.
Gum or drinks or, stuff like that. I treated him like...
says you're a troubled youth. Says you come in an hour after curfew and you steal chewing gum and soda.
I never used to steal chewing gum and soda, but I did come in after curfew.
All right. Go ahead.
Well,
you knew he was troubled earlier. Did you turn his life around?
Somewhat.
Somewhat?
But, I tried to look past those things, and I treated him like he was part of my family. He didn't have a whole lot of friends. He had maybe one or two. I treated him like he was my brother. Every time I talked to him, hey, brother, what's up, brother? How you doing? Even going as far as his father, I'd call him, hey, what's up, Dad? How you doing?
Good.
But I never in my right mind thought he would take my car.
Young man, you want to tell me about your friendship with the plaintiff?
Everything he said was true about our friendship. I've known him. I've treated him like my brother for as long as I've known him. And he's right about what he said about how I didn't have a lot of friends when I first came here. I met him about a year after I moved to Kansas. And ever since then, we've been like brothers ever since then.
Ma'am, did you want to speak before we get into the details?
Well, I had only met Robert the one time when he came to the house for Stephen's 18th birthday.
Tell me about the new car that you're suing for in car repairs. What happened?
I had been in Kansas City visiting my parents and some friends, and we had hung out that day, and it was getting late at night, and I still had to go over to his house to pick my personal stuff up. So I went over there, and I decided that I'd just, stay the night. I had to be to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't feel like making the long trip back home. So I stayed the night at his house. I fell asleep at his house about 1:30. I called his dad, make sure it was okay that I stayed the night. I asked him if he'd wake me up when he got home from work, which was normally about 5:30 in the morning, so I could make the trip back down to Missouri. Well, about 5 o'clock in the morning, I got a call, but it was Mr. Luster saying that Robert had been in an accident in my vehicle. And so at first, I thought he was kidding at first. And then he goes, no, he's been in an accident in your vehicle. So I walked to the scene of the accident, which was right around the corner from his house. I talked to Robert first, and he said that he had lost control of the vehicle and had slid and hit the parked cars. I talked to the officer, and he said that he had slid 75 feet around a corner with the stop sign at the corner through somebody's yard, and it hit two parked cars hard enough to push one of. They were parked.
Sir, did this happen?
I did slide and hit two parked cars, but I didn't slide. No.
Was there ice? I didn't hear that part.
It was raining, and he hardly had any tread on his tires.
That's not true, Your Honor. I had brand new tires.
Whatever the case. Whatever the case.
I did.
No, you didn't. Did you receive permission to use it?
I had permission to drive the car earlier that day. because I was driving.
Okay,
I
we're
had
not
been
talking about
driving
earlier
across.
that day. Talking about the time you had the accident.
He was asleep.
Right. So
And I
that
had to
means
move-
the answer is no.
I had to move
So
the
the
car.
answer is no. Thank you. And have you discussed repayment with the defendant?
We had originally talked about it, and he told me that he would, in fact, repay me. But as of this day, I still have yet to see a dime from him.
All right. And how long ago was that again?
That was September 9th of 2009.
All right. You want to tell me anything about what happened? Other than you took his car and you thought you heard him talking in his sleep?
I didn't hear him talking in his sleep, Your Honor.
What do you want to tell me about the incident?
I actually had to move his car because my father was on his way home and he was parked in his spot. Now, the apartment building that we lived in, the parking lot has the dumpster right there in the middle of the parking lot. And there's actually a dump truck had come through at that moment. So I had to go around the parking lot. But I don't know what I was thinking, honestly. And I went down the street. Now, I did stop at the stop sign. And I went around the corner, but it was actually a little farther down the street to where I lost control of the vehicle and slid 73
So
feet.
you're too old to be joyriding. That sounds like something a 13-year-old does. Take the car when somebody goes to sleep and joyride. Sir, do you want to add into this?
Well, yeah, I want to, if I can add a little background to this.
Sure.
Okay. When Robert came to live with me, he was 15. And you know, you really can't call Robert unruly. He was just plain wild. And that's the truth. But, you know, so I raised Robert, you know, with what I call, you know, I have to raise Robert tough. That's the way I got to go with Robert, because you can't be easy with nothing like this. I mean, I even locked him up. So, I mean, and I grew up here. And I've had a friend of mine, and I've had a friend of mine beaten to death, and I watched another friend of mine get shot right in front of me and killed him, okay? And I didn't want Robert to go down that
So
path.
you give him tough love.
Exactly. That's the only way. And like I said, I locked him up. But, you know, and I don't really dispute the fact that, you know, Robert had this accident. You know, this is another thing where Robert needs to be held accountable for what his actions are, because he never was before, and he never would hold responsibility for what he did. And I feel he does need to do that. But I feel they're trying to take advantage of us due to the simple fact of trying to get more money for this vehicle than what this vehicle is worth. Because I've got the Kelly Blue Book prices on these cars,
Let's
on this
see it.
car. Okay.
And what are they?
And I've got two separate prices on the Lincoln, the car that he was supposedly tearing up,
Okay.
which I know he tore it up, but they're looking for $3,000 plus, and I'm looking at $1,500 because the car wasn't in excellent condition to begin with. And as far as his new tires, he came to my house 2 months later. He was still driving that same car with those new tires on the car that wasn't on the car when Robert had that accident.
Is the car a 1991 Lincoln Town Car Signature sedan?
Yes, it is.
The one that was wrecked, yes.
And why do you think you are entitled to more than the value of the car?
Well, the car was made the month and the year that Stephen was born. And that's one of the reasons that I bought the car for him in the first place.
Sentimental value.
Right.
Okay.
It also ran like a top. We had no mechanical issues with it. And our attempt to replace it with as close a value of car as we could, unfortunately, cost us more than the actual amount of the car's worth.
How did you attempt to purchase
We
another
found a
one?
car for $350 and bought that, thinking we could take the engine.
You found a 1991 Lincoln Town Car for $300.
We found a 1992 Lincoln Town Car for $350. It needed an engine, but they thought the transmission was fine.
You should have just bought another car for the same year in good condition, because in fair condition, I have two estimates, one for $1,475 and one for $1,525 total value of the car. In good condition, as you say it was, I have $2,050, and that's what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you replacement value for a car that was in good condition. Keep giving him tough love, sir. That's what he needs. And have him arrested when need be. My mother had me arrested when I was a juvenile.
I don't have a problem
Anything
arresting.
happened in the neighborhood, she would call the police and tell them to check me out. She would. So you keep
I
that up,
understand.
and
Yep.
he might learn a little lesson from that.
I hope so.
Judgment for the plaintiff. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
I think we can continue being friends.
I'm sorry, man. You know.